So a good evening,
Going on
everybody.
YouTube.
Welcome aboard. Who understands what I'm saying? Most of you, all of you. Very good. That means I speak English and you understand English. Good. Est-ce qu'il y a des francophones à bord? Je pense que oui. Non, là-bas. Bonjour. Mais vous comprenez l'anglais, c'est ça? Okay. So I'll do it only in English. That's been a while. Good. Thank you. So my name is Stoffel, and we are using our newest boat only in the run for 3 months. Hell yeah. So we are turning our boat towards the source of this river. We're sailing the Leie right now. Leie, Lis in English. On the other side of the center you have the Schelde as well. So two rivers, both coming from France, about 200 kilometers ahead of us. You have the source of both sources. And actually Ghent was founded where the rivers come together, which is just 1-2 kilometers downstream. We cannot go till that point. We'll stay more in the old center, the medieval center. So Ghent was founded there in the 7th century. The first village was called Ghenta, which means as much as confluence. But then as the city grew, it grew upstream. So the commercial heart of Ghent during the Middle Ages and long after that lie here just before us. In between this bridge and the next one was the harbor, the most important of the city till about 200 years ago. The harbor together with the market on the other side of the houses on the left, recorded marks on the grain market. So one of the reasons why Ghent became such a big and rich city during the Middle Ages was the trade of grain. The grain was coming from France, and it was sold, it was unloaded here and then sold on the other side. So some of the houses that you see on this left side, they were a part of that trade of grain. You have the grain one now, which was a storehouse. It is the oldest house in the harbor today. It was built in 1200, Roman style. On the left and the right of it, you have two gilt houses of grain weighers. Gilt house. The very small one in between there was the most important, was the place to pay the tax. Small but very deep, as the pocket of the reciprocal tax. And then you have a very beautiful one, the one with the boat above the door, House of the Shippers, which is Gothic style, 16th century. The building next to it is also Gothic. It's actually neo-Gothic style, so it's the same style, but much younger. It's only 100 years old. It was built for the World's Fair of 1913. Very important date for Ghent. The center was cleaned up, a lot of new buildings came. The bridge is also from that time. Today this is a shopping center. The name is the old post office, so till 15 years ago you could buy stamps in here. And then a beautiful view on the three towers, definitely with the sun, the evening sun shining on that. This is one of the most famous views of the city. The very last one there is the St. Barb's Cathedral. That's the place where you'll find the painting, The Adoration of the Mystic Lamb. You may have heard about it. If not, go check it out. It's really, it's one of the highlights in painting history, actually. The second tower is the belfry. On top of it, you see a dragon. It's 95 meters high over there. The dragon is the keeper of Ghent. You can climb this tower if you want. They also have an elevator. To have a good view, you need to go there. So, and then the first one is the St. Nicholas Church. It's the church of shippers and merchants. One of the reasons Ghent has so many churches, we have about 40, is that people could buy a place in heaven by building a church. And It also supports some charity. So shippers and merchants had that St. Nicholas Church, and then St. Michael's here on the right side. It belonged to the brewers, which were rich people. That's why it's such a big church. They were rich because the quality of water was very bad, and so people drank beer instead. It's funny, but it was the reality. So they would drink a pint in the evening. They would drink about 3 times as much as we do in Belgium today. In the evening, whoops, in the afternoon also, but evening at breakfast they would have a glass of beer. Of course, the beer was not as strong as today. 3 times less strong. We have a beautiful and very old building on the right side here. This is an old Dominican monastery from 1201. Everywhere in Ghent, where you see those grey stones, those unequal, different sized stones, you can be sure you're looking to a building of 12th, 13th century. It's the time when stones were imported from a city on the other river close to France. On the Schelde you have a city called Tournai in French. So stones were imported. Simple reason, Flanders doesn't have many stones in the ground, so they had to come from elsewhere. Of course, only the very rich could do this. So the churches were made out of stones, monasteries. This was a monastery. And about 100 private houses were made out of stone. The rest was wood. So Dominican monastery, small house next to it here was their toilet. It's built later. Directly in the river, also the cold breeze tickling. Today this building belongs to the Ghent University. University which was founded about 200 years ago. It's the time when Belgium and the Netherlands were one country. This country lasted 15 years. But in those 15 years, a lot of good things for Ghent happened. So that King Willem I got a statue a couple of years ago because he founded that university. We last year had 75,000 students again. He made the harbor, or he ordered to make the new harbor, to make the most important canal for Ghent till today, the Canal Ghent Tour. So for our city, he was 75,000 students when the weather is good as it is right now, but as it wasn't this afternoon. This is the place where everybody comes to. You can see they're starting the party here on the right side. You can see they are drinking some orange juice, some sparkling water. That's what everybody does here. And sometimes they smoke cigarettes, and sometimes they put things in those cigarettes as well. That's the reason why this key on the right side is called the grass key. The grass is there. The left side, some other beautiful houses, one with 2 swans. Used to be a brewery, a hostel. The one next to it as well with the golden rings. And then you have this house of shippers, and you see golden boat on top of it. Most beautiful Baroque facade of the center, I believe. You see some lines, some anchors, some fish. Very top you have some fish. Actually these are dolphins, but the architect had never seen a dolphin. So we just left the river, the harbor, and we go right, which is the river, the canal here on the left side. It was made in the 13th century. It connected Ghent to the sea. That's for 10 minutes. The building on the left here is the old fish market. You can see the trident of Neptune sticking out of the roof over there. He's on the other side. The entrance is there. Might be interesting for you. The tourist information or visitor information center is over there these days. Till the 70s, so till 50 years ago, it was, they were still selling fish. So right now there's this tourist information office, there's a restaurant, a feast hall. It's a nice place to get married, to get remarried. House of the wine merchants on the left side, and then just a bit further, a small white house with 3 statues just above the door. The one in the middle, you might know it, it's the Manneken Pis of Ghent. It's like Brussels. It's over there. Only it doesn't pee. That's the main difference. And you see 2 statues next to it, the peeing twin sisters, they're called. They're there since about 8 years now. The city wanted more female statues, so they added it. The story of the boy, which is the oldest one here, is a bit different than in Brussels. He was the symbol of the leather workers, the tanners. So Manneken means boy, Pis means this. It's logical. Dutch is not a very hard language. Tanners, they needed ammonia to work the leather, and in urine there is ammonia. So boys and girls, they were selling what they produce. And well, actually there are 3 stories told about the existence of what this Manneken Pis means. This could be true because the neighborhood on the left here behind these houses, the Patersholt, it used to be a neighborhood with a lot of tanneries in the 18th century. And ammonia, till about 100 years ago, the only way you could get it was in urine. This was the only way. Most likely to start. Here we are in a different part of the city and a different part of Ghent history. Ghent exists about 1,400 years. There are 2 highways. The Middle Ages was one, and Ghent was among the biggest and richest cities in Europe. And then in the 19th century, again, Ghent became one of the first, and for about 50 years, the most important industrial city of Europe, of the continent. Of course, in England, they had bigger cities and industrial cities than earlier, but in Europe, Ghent was one of the first. Actually, Belgium was, as a country, ahead of its time in comparison to the neighboring countries. To give you an idea, when the First World War started, Belgium had the 5th economy in the world. It was a small country as well. All right, the first factory in Ghent stood just a bit downstream here, opened in 1800. It was a cotton factory. Spinning and weaving and painting of cotton was what Ghent made rich at that time. It was the motor of the economy till after the Second World War. Then competition got too strong. They started to close Continent's history forgot. But luckily for us, today we have other factories. We're not here in the center anymore. Centers for living, for going out, for working, in fact, in offices. The factories of today are in the north, in the harbor area. The new harbor of Ghent is of major importance to the city. It gives job to 62,000 people. side here, a red cannon on the quay. It's a female cannon. It's called Mad Margaret. She was used in Ghent only one time under the 16th century against the Spanish, but the city didn't have a lot of gunpowder left, so the cannonball just rolled out of the gun. And that's where Ghent lost the war. Side here with long building is the old meat market, 15th century building. It's nice idea to enter. Right now it's closing tomorrow. There's a beautiful wooden roof construction. So don't forget to look up. It was made by shipbuilders, so it seems like a ship upward bound. Today you can buy some regional products there like ham and gin and mustard. So now we leave the river. For the second part of the tour, we take this old canal, which connected Ghent to the sea. In the 13th century, the people of Ghent made it by hand to go this distance. They didn't have a motor, of course, motors didn't exist yet. So these boats, they were pulled by horses, but in most cases by the shipper's wife. The bigger the boat. That's a joke, of course. Bad joke. The left side here, the last wooden facade of our city, this yellow one. So I told you about the stone houses, how expensive they were. So most of the houses in Flanders were built like this. So 100 stone houses for 60,000 people, that's all. And one of those hundreds is still here on the right side behind the bridge. It was built in the 12th century. Again, those same grey stones that we saw a couple of times already. House of the Count of Flanders at first, later the Palace of Justice. Known for the executions that were done, often on the bridge. The old name of the bridge was the Decapitation Bridge. Right now it's the Capital Bridge. In the 19th century, this was a factory. Also, this was a factory. It was a ruin afterwards. They could have knocked it down, but they did not. The World's Fair was coming, 1913, so they restored it. They restored it with some fantasy, some romantic medieval fantasy. So they added some towers, some of the battlements were added, maybe a princess, to make it look medieval. Looks more medieval now than at that time. Well, it's one of the things to go to. I think as a visitor of Ghent, you should do 3 things at least. That's the castle, that's the cathedral with the painting, and then you should do a boat trip as well. the left side, beautiful romantic spot almost all the time. I pass by, there are kissing couples underneath the tree. Sometimes there are three or sometimes people on their own waiting to be kissed. Between the bridges here there was another harbor. So fish and wine was the thing that was traded here, and this square was also water. So yeah, boats would be turned here. The houses are still where they were, so you can see the original size. The neighborhood on the left side of the water has a beautiful name. It's the Prince's Court. Prinsenhof. An apartment for rent if you want. So the Prince's Court now is a residential area, but the name it comes from a very big castle that used to be here between 12th and 19th century. There is today only one part left. I'll show it on the way back. Most of the castle was knocked down and replaced by what you see here, 19th century factories and stores. I'll explain about the bridge. So Prince's Court was built here in the 12th to 13th century. It was a big palace complex. It was surrounded by a wall. There were altogether 300 rooms. Each room had a fireplace, which was very luxurious. There even was a place for lions. Today, some of our best neighbors live here. But actually, I don't see the problem. So the 19th century was a period with a lot of impact on the city, on the people, on the buildings. Ghent, the center of Ghent became one industrial area. This is one of the remainings, a beautiful factory from around 1860. You see this chimney has a square shape, which is today rare. At that time this was standard. It was easy to build a square shape, and they didn't know yet that the round chimneys are much better, they're much more stable, and they don't push So about 1860, chimneys were built square. We have a round one between the trees somewhere over there. This is the remaining of the paper. So here where the water ends. That's also the reason why we'll turn. It's hard sailing without water. So this water was closed end of the 19th century. Ghent was fighting another and a more severe health crisis than today. It was fighting against diseases like cholera, who spread through the water. Ghent looked more like Amsterdam till that time. A lot of canals. And those canals were all closed, not all of it. A lot of them were closed. This was one of those. If you walk the streets of Ghent tonight, the chance is real that you'll walk one of those old canals. The building on the right side here is the Rabot, which is actually a name. Rabot is the name, the Dutch word for a lock. So this was also the place. This is the last city gate of Ghent. So Ghent had a wall till 1860. And this wall meant the real end of Ghent. On the other side, it was nothing but fields. This is normally